Welcome back to a familiar place, one we've all been before. To the west of the Pacific Ocean sits a large city, a city to be precise. They're the coordinates that indicate only one thing in this world. The Great Class A river's name that flows beside it is the Ojiro River, and spanning across it is the Hagi Bridge. If you cross that bridge from the south to the north side, you find yourself in S City's Momiji ward, Morioh. The small town has a hustling population of over 47,000 people, and like a bunch of other small Japanese towns, it is known for its famous beef tongue pickled in miso. The town is supported by tourism, holiday villas that extend out to the coast, and recently a new microchip component manufacturing plant. Sadly, Morioh was also hit by a massive earthquake, the same one that happened in our own world on the 11th of March 2011, the Tohoku earthquake. According to maps made by Geospatial Data of Japan, the city is 3 kilometers long and located on a plateau 15 meters above sea. So luckily when the tsunami hit, there weren't as many victims as other nearby towns, nor as much damage. That being said, it was still a severe ordeal that forced some major changes. Now though, a second problem has arisen. Late at night on the day of the earthquakes, protuberances suddenly shot up from beneath the earth and became known as walleyes. Some of them appeared a few hundred meters inland due to the fault line stretching pretty much right through the middle of the city. Walleyes were originally the name given to them by grade school kids at the local Morioh Elementary. The town even got a researcher in to check them out. However, he hadn't done any pre-evaluations of the area, so the things he said weren't exactly reliable. The weird thing about these walleyes that no one else could explain as well was that random things would come out of them. Stumbling backwards in pure shock, a pink-haired girl finds a random sailor stuck under some earth with a bite-shaped wound around his star-shaped birthmark. He threw up his hands, symbolizing he needed help. However, and assuming he might have some kind of infectious disease, the girl decided to not approach him and call the fire department. She takes a picture of his wound with her phone and gives the fire department her name, Yasuho Hirose. Yasuho asks the man for his name, but he can't seem to remember who he is or how he ended up where he is right now. Suddenly, the sailor dude starts to sink further into the ground, and realizing that some kind of hole underground opened up, Yasuho grabs his arm in an attempt to stop it. Since she's young, 19, banging, and completely jacked, Yasuho screams for the man to put his arm around her as she tears him for the hole in the earth. Glancing up now to see her phone on the ground, Yasuho can't help but notice that the birthmark had moved from the bite mark on his back and was floating off. This is pretty crack up as well, I can't lie, but finally having come to his senses, Yasuho looks at the man and can't help but notice how he's completely naked. Having a quick peek downstairs, she starts sweating with apprehension. Anyways, randomly a man named Joshu Higashikata stumbles his way over and catches Yasuho in an extremely compromising position. Hitting straight demon mode, bro clenches up, grabs the closest rock and starts walking her down. He questions how something like this could happen. Surely she's making up an excuse not to be with him. Screaming out, Yasuho pleads with him to let her explain, however, he shoves her out of the way, something that triggers the naked sailor. In a flash, Cheeks jumps up and hits an arm lock, stopping the little gooner. Easily overpowering the dude though, Joshu smashes him over the head with a rock. Needing him to let go, Joshu reels up and gets ready to strike the man again, when randomly, a bubble starts to float up through his skin with the same birthmark on it. Joshu, not seeing this bubble, goes to smash his head. However, the moment the bubble pops, Joshu's eyes explode, leaving him temporarily blind. Panicking because of his sudden blindness, Joshu can do nothing but flail helplessly and scream out terrified. Slowly getting back to his feet, the mysterious man lets loose, striking Joshu in the stomach, causing him to vomit and pass out from the pain. Sitting there, confused herself, Yasuho can't understand what in the world this man did to her childhood friend Joshu. In the distance, sirens ring out as police and other emergency services close in. Breaking away from Memento, Part 8 of JoJo's is a story about breaking a curse. The definition of a curse is an impurity that has been handed down because of a sin committed by a distant ancestor you knew nothing about. Another interpretation could be that when mankind first came into existence and things were firmly classified as black or white, the friction that grew between them is what a curse is. Whatever a curse may be at the end of the day, it's something that must be broken, otherwise you'll end up defeated by it. Yasuho questions herself a bunch about who the fellow is she found. Who is he? Were the illusions she saw a hallucination or a trick of her imagination? She poses that she wasn't seeing straight because she's been feeling so self-conscious recently. After all, she saw them. Down below, bro supposedly had 4 nuts instead of the stock standard 2. She's sure of it, he had 4. He definitely had a singular lance, but for sure she knows he had 2 times 2 balls. Standing there with the image now just burned into her eyes, Yasuho concludes she's better off not saying anything for the moment. Laying deep in thought himself, the random fellow admits he doesn't know where he is or who he is. In his hospital room, the man wonders why the nurses are dressed in white and ponders on a little girl calling out to her sister and mother, wondering why they all look similar. Looking out a nearby window, he can see varied tit birds and butterflies flying about. Surprisingly, the moment a butterfly lands on the window pane, he's able to determine the exact length just by looking at it. He also recognizes the tree the birds are perched on to be a Japanese alder, and also calculates its height. Finally, he sees and recognizes the person walking down the hospital hallway to be Yasuho, also calculating her height to be exactly 166 centimeters. Yasuho enters the room and is initially confused when she can't find the dude anywhere. Turning around to see his head poking out from under the mattress though, Yasuho gets a fright and stumbles back. She asks what the hell he's up to, but that full-on goes over his head as he just claims he's sleeping because the nurse told him to stay in his room. She clarifies her question again though and asks why he would be sleeping in between his mattress and the bed frame, confusing the man who thought it was the obvious way to use a bed. A little while later, Yasuho asks if he can remember anything about himself. From what she heard, he might be someone who was out at sea when the tsunami hit and he got washed inland. The police are currently scanning records and missing person reports to try and locate his family, but she admits that it really looks like they don't have a clue. Then, as Bro slowly starts to stand up, she once again asks if it's true that he's lost his entire memory. Admitting that he really doesn't remember anything, the man lists off what he can do and how he knows a bunch of different history. When it comes to who he is though, he doesn't have a clue. He can't remember his name, what his favourite flower could be, if he even was a sailor, he just doesn't have a clue. The only person he knows is her. Pulling Yasuho in close and hugging her, he says her name and exact height, but she obviously pushes him away because Bro immediately got a stiffy when he pulled her in. Moving that aside for now, she asks him where he got his hat from, and after inspecting it, notices the label inside is from a store that she is familiar with. I actually love to see that it's got the SBR 1891 dates inside of the hat here, and to my assumption that means that it's most likely from like some sort of Higashikata store, because if you guys all remember, he ended up actually coming in like 3rd or 2nd place and got a huge monetary prize at the end of it. And obviously we know this family must be a part of the story because of Joshu popping up at the very start of the first chapter. Continuing with Joshu, and because of like obviously how he was found, the police have stationed a woman outside of his room because they believe it was probably this dude who injured him. Since she hasn't left yet, Yasuho tells him that she will take a photo of the hat and take it to the shop to ask questions. Immediately stopping her though, Bro says it's personal and he wants to go there in person to find out with his own eyes and ears. With his palm then placed on his shoulder, a small bubble starts to form. From their room to the elevator, it's exactly 21 meters, then a further 31 downwards to the first floor and hospital entrance. It's precisely 14 meters to the purified water, and the next elevator going down opens in 25 seconds from now. Using the bubble, the man whips his hand and launches it towards the female cop standing guard near his room. The bubble floats through the air towards the clock, and while it does, Bro asks about what's up with the difference in their chest sizes, because you know, women have got like mummy milkers and everything. Either way, the balloon floats until it eventually makes contact with the woman standing there, and pops. Instantly, her face along with the top part of her body pops, leaving her seemingly scarred with a multitude of tiny holes. Following this, water gushes from each hole, leaving the woman completely dehydrated and in search of water. Watching her leave to get a drink from the purified water 14 meters away, the two use this chance to exit the hospital. Blown away with how easy it was for them to escape, Yasuho asks what it was he just did to that policewoman, causing him to question her if she's unable to do anything. Still inside the hospital, and god I love this fiend so far, standing there just absolutely seething, the unsocial sociology major, Joshu, watches Mrs. Steal Your Girl running off with Yasuho. Suddenly getting the shivers and collapsing to the floor, Joshu pulls his pants up to reveal a bite mark on his knee. Back over with the main duo now and strolling through the town, they make their way over to, the hat store. Upon entering, Yasuho checks out with the clerk while Bro examines exactly what they have in store here. She asks the clerk if he knew who brought this man's hat, and if he had any ideas about when it was sold. Noting how we sold a few of those exact hats over the past few weeks, she checks with him if he remembers what they looked like when they purchased it, and he claims he does. In fact, 3 days ago, it was actually our mysterious man who bought the hat himself. The clerk brings out a book containing past sales, and says that his name appears to be Yoshikage Kira. Stunned to finally lure his name again, Kira stands there for a moment, taking it all in. Needing to figure out exactly where Kira lived in town, Yasuho got the clerk to check if he also wrote down his address, which he did. Apparently, he lived in an apartment building, so wanting to check that out, the duo set off to make sure it was actually his place. While the two were walking and talking, Yasuho brought up how she thought the name Yoshikage didn't exactly suit him, as it gave off a different kind of vibe. Probably more like a bit of a murderous kind of vibe if you ask me. Instead, she said he looked more like Josuke because his face kinda looked like a dog she used to have called Josuke, so she wants to call him that from now on. Love how bro's standing there like, what is a dog? What the hell is that? Eventually Kira and Yasuho roll up to the apartment building number 258. Standing inside of the mailroom, Kira can tell that this is his home. He bought things from the nearby shops and possibly rode the bus from the bus stop. His room is number 204, exactly 10 meters and 22 centimeters from the entrance of the building. He kinda wants to go there, but he has no idea of how to get in or if a manager is needed. Having made their way to his doorway, Yasuho feels around the doorframe, something Kira thinks is stupid as no way he'd hide the key there. Surprisingly though, she finds a spare key on the doorframe. Entering the room, they find an extremely clean and beautifully designed single man's apartment. Right next to the doorway, they notice the same sailor outfits Kira is wearing and immediately assume that this is indeed his house. However, while the two of them are sizing up the sailor clothing, they hear something or someone in the other room. Slowly, the doorway begins creaking open. Kira and Yasuho try to call out to whoever is in the bathroom, but no one answers. Moving into the lounge, they also hear footsteps in the apartment above Kira's, but don't initially pay much attention to it. Having made his way to personally check inside of the bathroom, Kira goes to peek his head around the doorway. At the same time, Yasuho enters the kitchen and opens his cupboards, only to find an overload of green food products. Now inside the bathroom, Kira turns off the tap, but weirdly notices the sound of water still. Turning around, bro straight up finds a naked girl just chilling in his tub. Like damn man. In a flash, bro dips out and slams the door closed, just as Yasuho starts to approach the room as well. She asks what's up, and Kira just tells her not to freak out, but there is a woman in the tub. Entering the room for a moment, Yasuho confirms that there really is a girl just straight up chilling in the bathtub. Breaking the ice, Yasuho introduces herself and makes it known that she isn't dating Kira or anything like that. All she wants to know is if she's actually Kira's girlfriend herself. Randomly, the girl's foot is then hit by a small marking, causing her body to flop forward, freaking the others out. Instead of answering the initial question, the girl begs for them to save her and get her out of here. At the same time that she stumbles forward, the woman knocked over a glass jar that in turn smashed on the ground. Since there's glass in the floor, Kira obviously grabs his slippers and goes to put them on like any sane man would. He tells the others to watch out for the fallen glass, however, the moment he stands up, he screams out in pain, falls over, and knocks more jars off the freaking shelf. Turns out, these slippers have been stuffed with a bunch of thumbtacks, causing Kira to start questioning what this even is and who set something like this up. Picking up an unsmashed bottle and examining it, Kira can tell the entire bottle is filled with old clipped nails. While Kira is straight up gagging over how many jars worth of gang-cast nails he's kept on his shelf, Yasuho finds a photo album and opens it up. Seeing her looking at it, Kira asks what's inside. However, Yasuho starts to freak out and demands he get his hands away from her. Stumbling back towards the exit, she tells Kira she wished she hadn't come to a disgustingly dirty place like this. Not wanting his kind in her town, Yasuho demands that he leave at once. Tossing the album at him, she then makes a mad freaking dash towards the exit. Curious himself about what's gotten her so freaked out, Kira opens the book, only to be utterly horrified by what he sees, and something that I can't really mention because YouTube will send me off to chill with, good old Yamayugi. Pretty much it was some compromising photos, but putting that aside and back to the naked lady though, Kira demands to know what's happening, but she just blankly stares at him. Actually confused, the girl mentions how she thought he was initially going to help her escape from this place. Before he can properly assess the situation though, another thud from the apartment above causes another bottle of nails to smash onto the floor next to him. Tripping over his own clumsy ass, Kira goes to brace his fall, but cuts himself on a shard of glass on the floor. Immediately, the blood in his left hand and foot start coagulating, and seeing this, the female screams that they need to escape before it's too late. Obviously, this random ability inhibits people from moving whatever a marking is placed on, so with this lady being marked up on all 4 limbs, she's pretty much cooked and needs help escaping from this bathroom obviously, or apartment. Elsewhere in town, and after running into a few friends on their way to the Higashikata fruit company, Yasuho decides to leave them under the guise of heading home. In reality though, she's still trying to understand mentally what she witnessed earlier. From Kira coming out of the wall-eyes holes to the photos she found in his apartment. She isn't exactly sure how to describe it, but he didn't give her the vibe of a complete freak who'd enjoy the kind of cruelty she saw. Pondering it all, Yasuho throws up the idea of the man she found not being Kira Yoshikage. However, the implications leave her worried and questioning what could possibly happen to him if someone else was already living in that apartment. Back at the apartment, our boy is going through it all. He can say with confidence he isn't some creep. He knows the photos are real, but he still doesn't have a clue who he truly is. Barely able to move his arm and foot, he can see his blood is turning into some sort of symbol on his skin. He goes to grab a towel to wipe it off, however, the naked lady screams at him to stop. Moving in and examining the towel up close, it's revealed that the entire thing is laced with tiny needles. He's in his ass to quit talking, the lady then points above them. She informs him that if he's too loud, the guy above them will hear him, and if they stand directly over you, it's all over. Standing up, the lady plops herself into the bath. She slides in deep, and as she does, warns Kira that she doesn't want to go into the bath one bit. She'd rather dry herself off with a towel. However, before she can say any more, the lady completely submerges herself in the bath water. Leaning over to get a cheeky gander of her, Kira can't help but note the odd way she got into the tub. He curiously points out that if she wanted to feel pressure, then laying under a mattress works really damn well. Obviously under the influence of something else, the lady just starts screaming out from underneath the water for a helping hand. Snapping back into his human mode, Kira plunges his hand into the water to save the lady. Randomly though, the moment he tries to pull her out, he can't, her weight making it completely impossible. He tells her to quit bracing her legs after noticing that she was. However, before he's able to help her anymore, his own hand gets a mind of its own and starts trying to strangle him. Slipping over onto the floor, Kira manages to stop strangling himself and questions why his arms and legs are moving by themselves. Struggling back to the girl's side, Kira notices the plug and quickly pulls it. The bath starts to drain, allowing the girl to breathe again and start explaining her story. Turns out, she's from Tokyo and was kidnapped while on a trip to Morioh. She isn't sure how long it's been, but he was here with her at the start of it and managed to escape. Glancing down at his own hand now, Kira sadly notices that the stopper chain for the bath plug was made of freaking razors, which sliced open his palm. Subsequently, this deems his other arm completely useless. The girl, even more frightened now, exclaims that 3 of his limbs have been taken. When the enemy stands directly above them and they're wounded, a symbol will appear on that limb. If all 4 limbs are taken, then it is physically impossible to escape. Completely weirded out over the situation so far, Kira, or who I thought was Kira, we're just going to stick with that name for now until we actually get his name, turns back demanding that the girl say his name since he thinks Kira could actually be the man upstairs. Unable to tell him his name, the girl just repeated what I said earlier about how he used to be here but then escaped. She goes to tell him about the man above them, but before she's able, her own hand restrains her from talking. Unable to control any of her own limbs, her arms flail out, smashing the shelf and managing to grab a hold of a falling razor blade. Rushing in, Kira quickly restrains her before she's able to slice off her own freaking tongue with the blade. Getting some space from her, the lady explains how all she is bait. Bait laid to trap him into getting the razor into his hand. Since he already has a symbol on both hands now, she warns him that they're actually being controlled by the man above them. Flailing out all of a sudden, the man controlling Kira's body attempts to slice him with the razor. Using the one remaining limb he has left though to stomp and restrain his hand, Kira realizes something. All he needs is to move somewhere out of the guy's range so he can't affect them with whatever power he has. Telling him that it's completely meaningless though, the woman points out how now that he's holding a razor, he'll never be able to let go of it. In a flash, Kira's hand lashes out, trying to deal the finishing blow on himself. However, in a twist that not even Bill Clinton saw coming, don't know why I said Bill Clinton, but that same bubble from earlier, the one from actually ages ago now, floats up before simply popping as it hits the nearby wall. Rushing out from behind his body, our boy summons his stand, soft and wet, into the bathroom. You see, soft and wet uses the popping of its soap bubbles to erase something from reality. Right now, in this room, he took the sound from inside of this environment, specifically the sound from the wall the bubble hit. Without any sound, the man above them is simply unable to locate their exact location, allowing them to move around freely. Lashing out, SW kicks through the nearby wall, giving them a spot to quietly leave the bathroom. Love how the door's literally still open and on the same wall that the bubble hits, but make your own entrance, do what you need to do. Deducing that the man tracking them is on the 3rd floor in room 304, Kira makes a decision to find him and face him directly. Hearing the footsteps above them heading towards the door, Kira darts off, leaving the girl behind. Currently, the man has 3 of his limbs, but he guesses he's panicking over losing complete control. Putting himself in the kidnapper's shoes for a moment, he knows he'd wait in ambush if he was him directly behind the entrance door on the floor above. So instead, he'll take the veranda way up. Making a mad dash towards the ranch slider, Kira uses soft and wet to silently smash through the glass out onto the veranda. Randomly though, it turns out there's 2 snakes that had been placed there in anticipation by the man upstairs. Unable to prevent it in time, one of the snakes bites the tendon on his one remaining leg. Climbing up onto the air conditioning unit to figure out what the hell's going on here, he can see the blood on his final foot starting to turn into a symbol. But because the man above can't track his precise location, he's unable to take full control. Catching him by surprise, a snake is then lowered from the balcony above him, giving his enemy an idea of where Kira could be hiding. Adding to his situation, his throat starts to constrict as the venom from the snake enters his veins. Glancing across the room and seeing a book open, I love how this is just on the floor by the way, to the page with these exact snakes, he can see they have a poison strength of A. On top of that, the book sits with a coping saw on top of it, with a sticker asking him, or pretty much pushing him in the direction of cutting his own foot off. Rushing back indoors, it's revealed that our mystery man is unable to use his ability or the soap bubbles on himself, making removing the poison from inside of him completely impossible. Right now, his only option is to try and escape this room, as it'll give him more options when it comes to defeating his opponent. Flowing into his mind, the picture of a random man's face stuns him still. He questions what the hell that was, but since his memories are still missing, he's unable to pinpoint exactly who it could be. Returning to some semblance of reality, the apartment's phone starts ringing. Having made her way out of the bathroom, the lady points out how the man upstairs is calling them. It's a trap, something she can easily pick up on due to how people have continuously used her throughout her life. Not wanting to die as well, the lady then hypocritically picks up the phone and decides to make a deal. In exchange for having her own life spared, the lady reveals our boy's location on the black sofa. Unable to move anywhere in time, Kira is forced down against the sofa and manipulated against his own will. The man upstairs then sprints across the room and, having taken control of our boy, it throws our boy straight into the TV cabinet. Now, with him close enough to the saw, he manipulates Kira into picking it up and trying to slice his own face. Opening his jaw just in time and jamming the blade between his teeth, he barely manages to survive the initial attack. Right as this happens though, the doorway to his apartment opens and Yasuho enters, convinced that Kira isn't actually who he is. Coming to an immediate halt upon seeing what the hell's going on in front of her, Yasuho glances around and notices the naked lady hiding nearby. Honestly, I don't know why she hasn't sprinted out of this room yet. Prying the saw out of his mouth, Kira screams for her to get out of here and run. All of a sudden, the man upstairs starts running towards the apartment door, dragging Kira with the saw still in his hand towards Yasuho, who's still struggling to move. Not allowing her to open the door, the man makes Kira toss the sword at her hand, cutting it before she's able to leave. Pretty much, he also wants to cut her limbs in order to add her to the list of people he controls. Unable to move, Yasuho can only watch as Kira reels up another swing with the coping saw. Calmly though, Kira explains to her that he's going to attack her, but she can relax since there's no way in hell she's actually going to get hurt. Plus that running idea, there's no need to even worry about leaving the apartment now since it's completely safe. Thanks to her entering the apartment, he's now able to move his shoulder freely that was previously pinned against the floor. Having activated his ability, a soap bubble floats up before popping against the ceiling, instantly causing the man upstairs to slip over. Turns out he took the friction from the ceiling above them, and since the man was on the floor, he slipped over and fell. So it's kind of like he's walking on ice now. Hearing the man slip around and struggling to get back to his feet, our guy is forced into acting the exact same way, since obviously he's got to mimic what the dude upstairs is doing. Suddenly, he's then pulled back towards the veranda, back towards the snakes. Not wanting to go through that entire ordeal again, Kira sends out another bubble. Stopping now in front of the smashed ranch slider, mainly because the guy upstairs has to open it and go through it, Kira half reminds the man that he also knows his location at all times by being attached to him, and it looks as if he's trying to take him back outside with the snakes. That doesn't matter though, since the bubble he sent out moments before will be sucked inside when he opens his own apartment door. And when his soap bubble hits a human body and pops, it will naturally take their eyesight. This time around, however, he left just enough light that his enemy will be able to see a shine off in the distance. Naturally, when your vision is in complete darkness, you'll want to walk in the direction where there's more light. Without the ability to see now, the dude sprints off the balcony, giving our boy the perfect chance. Activating soft and wet, he lets loose, pummeling the blind fool as he floats down past him. Grabbing his collar, our mysterious gooner demands to know who he is before Soft and Wet tosses the dude's ass into the apartment. Angered by the ruckus, the snakes cruise on in, ready to bite him, but he manages to toss them out of the way. Needing his own answers, Kira grabs the man's coat and shakes him silly until a vial of antitoxin falls out. Over with Yasuho, Gil can't believe it. All they want to do is find out who Kira really is, but they keep running into things beyond comprehension. Getting her attention and asking her to look elsewhere for a moment, our boy quickly jabs Redcoat a few more times and demands that he don't move his hands or try and make any sudden movements. Realizing something though, the attacker stumbles over as he tries to point out the hand sculptures on the dresser behind him. Confidently, he claims the person we thought was Kira isn't him, but someone else completely. If he needs proof, then the man implores him to pick up these sculptures and examine them. The real Kira Yoshikage was a narcissist, so he sculpted the hands to be a mirror of his extremely beautiful ones. Confused because he assumed the attacker was Kira, our boy just tells him to quit it. He knows he's Kira because he's also the guy who kidnapped the brunette girl. Baffled, the dude just denies it, claiming he only lives upstairs. Tossing his dog ass into the TV, over it all at this point, our guy just listens as the dude admits he made a mistake. That being said, he once again tells the two of them that he is not the occupant of this room or Kira Yoshikage. Sick of the gooner messing with them, bro gets Yasuho to quickly find the time for him. Turning him back around, he socks Redcoat one more time. Sick of getting beaten on, Red removes a photo that he thinks could explain everything. Looking at it, our duo is shocked to see someone who looks like our mystery man, however, he's obviously someone else, with beautiful palms. Red explains how he's got a grudge against this dude who is actually Kira, so he lets snakes loose on the deck, did a bunch of crazy stuff in the bathroom, even kidnapped a lady and forged the album to make it look like it was Kira. Then, when our duo showed up, he mistook our mystery man for Kira, something he doesn't blame himself for now since they look super alike. He knows he's different though, the shape of his hands give it away, but he also can't help feeling like the two of them are somewhat alike. Not exactly able to compute all of this, bro grabs Red by his collar and demands he give him his name and occupation. Finally, the man introduces himself as Ojiro Sasame, a surfer who lives in room 304. Stunned, our dude points out that being a surfer isn't exactly a job. Clearing the air for everyone, Ojiro explains how the man in the photo is the real Kira Yoshikage. He's 29 years old, a ship doctor, and lives in room 204. 3 years earlier, during summer while he was out surfing, as he always did, Ojiro glanced into the water below and saw a woman being pinned down by a stand. Not any woman though, it was actually the freaking girl he invited to go surfing with him, and she wasn't exactly there through pure coincidence, but because of the type of ability he has. Looks like we got a little Jeffrey Epstein type right here. He used to only have a little bit of fun and was pretty happy of a person. Then that summer came and Kira randomly started standing directly behind him. Initially, he became friendly with that man and his beautiful hands because he could see his ability too. Personally, he never witnessed it as well, but when Ojiro heard him speak quietly to him one day, it just gave him the feeling like the guy had committed a bunch of murders. Then, one afternoon, Kira asked Ojiro if a surfer was a person of the sea or a person of the land. The question though was so vague that Ojiro interpreted it as an insult, something he couldn't stand as an extremely proud surfer. He threatened him, not backing down for his surfer boys, and then one day Kira stalked him out. He questioned him over and over again, fisherman of the sea or dentist of the land. All day he kept telling Ojiro he was no man, outside in, inside out. He told him he was just pretending, and on he'd accuse him, asking him if he was so indecisive that he can't make a single decision in his life. Pulling his gloves away from his hands now, Ojiro shows them how after days of abuse, he ate them all. He didn't know what he was doing, but he just went crazy and ate all 10 fingers. After being driven to this extent, Ojiro could never forgive himself, and the only way he'd ever feel satisfied was if he controlled Kira. Baffled, since he can't understand who these weirdos he's dealing with are, our guy just demands to know where Kira is now, and who he even was. Unable to really give them any more info, Ojiro once again repeats how he laid here in wait, then our mystery guy appeared instead of him. Thinking of something, Yasuho grabs the photo with the real Kira in it and points out the spring that she found our man in earlier on. Putting that aside, he asks her why she came back, especially after what she saw earlier. Mentioning that she's actually got a dog called Josuke, Yas just says his face looks almost identical. Getting Yasuho to look elsewhere for a moment, bro curb stomps Ojiro into the floor before quickly rushing out of the room with her. A little while later, the duo returned back to the spot where they first met, convinced that it has some larger significance to the entire ordeal. Activating his stand, Josuke sends out a bubble that, when it connects with the small stream, it violently sends the water shooting out. Spotting something that looked like a human hand at the bottom, Bro jumped back into the hole in an attempt to pull out a buried man. Eventually, they got the man out and the cops were called and an autopsy was done. The cause of death was a heart attack and he died around 3 days earlier. No drugs or evidence that it was self-inflicted was found, but it was evidence that he had been buried by someone. According to the DNA, the corpse belonged to a 29-year-old Kira Yoshikage, who worked on a ship as their doctor, meaning that obviously our dude couldn't be Kira since he also died 3 days earlier. When Yasuho found him in the stream, the body of Kira would have actually been directly below him. Lastly, according to the autopsy, Kira didn't have any testicles. On top of that, it was obviously not the work of any surgeon and was completely natural. The dude was just missing his nuts. Standing there, looking out at the man, all 4 balls hanging proud in the wind now, she starts to realise something. Moving past that thought for now, eventually our mystery man got a guardian, someone who came forth to accept him and give him a home. That person just happened to be the father of the creeper from literally right at the beginning of the story, Mr. Higashikata, a distant descendant of the man who came second in the Steel Bull Run race. Due to how everyone in the family said that our guy also looked like the dog Yasuho used to have, Josuke, they decided to stick with it and gave him the name of Josuke Higashikata. Now, we can finally start on the journey to discover who he truly is, and I can finally use Josuke's name canonically. For future references in like other videos and whatnot, do you like it when I keep the names of people ambiguous till like we learn them, or should I literally not care about it and just use everyone's names from the get-go? Like, it could have been a little bit confusing about who I was talking about with Ojiro there for a little bit during that fight because I left his name ambiguous up until we saw him. But either way, out in the car now, Norisuke Higashikata IV happily chit-chats with Josuke and Yasuho while he drives to the Higashikata family mansion. Norisuke also talks about how his family business, which is fruit trade, came to be, a business going back to Norisuke I. The current Norisuke claims he wants to pay back this country and land through public surface. Walking up to the house entrance, Josuke takes a moment to look out at the amazing view. Seeing him do so, Yasuho brings up some more info on Kira. He was never married, had no family and no criminal history. Stumped over how Kira had no relatives, Josuke wonders if anyone's even searching for him, or maybe he's also someone without a family. As Josuke and Yasuho then enter the house, they notice the little Guna peeking out from a nearby hallway. One by one, each family member starting with Joshu, the second son, introduce themselves. Hato, the first daughter, is your typical mid-20s blonde with a curvaceous body. Daiya, the second daughter, pops in from behind, curious if Josuke's also into progressive rock. Walking in with the grandkid, Norisuke introduces his daughter-in-law, Mitsuba, and her son, Tsurugi. I didn't know Tsurugi was only 11 years old here before Majuro started, but very interesting. Norisuke decides to take a commemorative photo in which Josuke insists Yasuho join them. He grabs a hold of her hand and walks her towards the center of the group, enraging Joshu. Jealous, he comments that the eldest son, Jobin, isn't here, prompting Norisuke to cancel the photograph altogether. Happy with himself, the little rat walks off, while Dadasuke continues with the house tour. They get to his room and show him how they've sorted it out with pretty much everything. Honestly, what a goated family to just be dropped into. The spawn rate's got to be in the low percentiles for sure. Turns out this used to be Joshu's room, who's now actually been relegated to the room above the garage. He goes to complain, but his dad pays him off, giving him a fat stack of cash and telling him to just get along with Josuke. Needing to ask a favour from Josuke too, Norisuke takes him off to the side for a moment and introduces him to reality. He knows he said he was taking him in earlier as a public surface, but nothing in life is free, so he ominously reminds him that what he says goes. Bringing up his youngest daughter Daiya now, Norisuke informs him that she's visually impaired and can barely see. When it comes to the favour he was talking about just before, he lets him know that he will now be looking after her. Unsure about all of this at first, Norisuke just tells Josuke it'll be fine. He waves his daughter over, who comes sprinting in, almost tackling Josuke and giving him a hug. Standing there herself, Yasuho can do nothing but watch in disgust as the succubus starts to rub up on her 4x4 mysterious ball man. Moving past that, finally Norisuke gives Josuke the last rule of the house. He must never go inside of the room at the top of the stairs. Outside of the property now, Yasuho goes to leave through the gate, when the maid stops her with a message from the household head, warning her to stop tempting his youngling Joshu. Norisuke then bans her from ever entering the house again. On top of that, he demands she never meet with Josuke again and for her to quit poking her nose where it doesn't belong, otherwise something might just happen to her family. Inside of the house now, Josuke sits there thinking about going up those damn stairs. From what he saw, there was a marking on the handrail for the staircase, the same mark that was on Kira's buried body. Entering the room and deciding to make some tea. It's always tea. Throwback to the scene with Dio and SBR in that village where he's like turned into a dinosaur and everything. Anyway, Daiya stumbles around trying to find the jug. They're always blind as well when they go to make tea. Do you notice this? Like, this is something that's happened in both of these parts now. I'm curious if this is going to be a continuous thing throughout like the next section. Hitting the instant transmission, bro tries to give her a hand, but she instantly picks up on how her dad obviously has given him orders. Annoyed, she asks for him not to fuss over her and just act natural since that's his job. Wondering what he should do specifically then, Daiya tells him to not do anything, just watch out for himself. Picking up the jug and starting to pour it on the bare bench, Josuke butts in, trying to warn her, even sliding the cup perfectly below the first drip of water. However, she gets annoyed, telling him she remembered where she put them. It's not like she's trying to put pressure on him, but not acting natural is a landmine. Apologizing for the fuss then, Josuke says he won't do it again, when randomly a flower-like stand shoots out from behind the mugs. Startled, Josuke watches as they fly off the side of the table before seemingly vanishing into thin air. Standing there for a moment, he wonders what that was, when randomly he hears Daiya start to sniffle in pain. Glancing back, Josuke watches her leg violently explode. Panicked, he runs around the house looking for someone or something to call for help. Grabbing a hold of Daiya, whose left thigh bone is still exposed, Josuke is randomly hit by a memory of something. The memory of the square mark he had seen before on the handrail leading to the second floor. Piecing it together, he remembers how he saw it on Kira's wrist too. He isn't sure what kind of meaning it holds, but he's sure there is some kind of connection between Kira and the Higashikata family. Suddenly, he notices that Daiya's wound is gone, and stands up adamant that there is something off with this girl. Reminding him that fairness is rules and rules are power, Daiya tells him to stop fussing over her. That's a rule. Bending his mind some more, the memory of the square mark forms with a chest piece and starts bursting from his freaking head. Violently, it shoots out and bounces across the room. Picking it up, Daiya calmly walks over and places it on her chessboard of mystery. Unable to figure out what's going on, Josuke notes how he's lost something extremely important. Forgetting about that for the time being, he asks about the things Daiya is fiddling around with, and she breaks it down for him, explaining that they're kind of chess pieces, but the exact identity of it doesn't matter. Instead, it's about what they contain inside. Each piece pretty much stores memories from other people. Picking up the knight, Josuke asks what the mark is inside of it. He can't understand why, but he feels like it's extremely important, as if he's seen it before. Getting up, Daiya repeats how fairness is rules, so she'll explain it all. She has an ability called a stand. Its name is California Kingbeard. Earlier in life when she was young, she fell into a fault line causing her vision to get worse, but in exchange, she got her stand. Its ability allows her to take one memory from a person, and because he broke the treating her fairly rule, she obtained the mark memory, which was obviously the thing he was thinking about at the time. Josuke demands to know what she took from him, but it's simply no use. Even if she was to give him a fair explanation, he's unable to remember anything about the mark because she stole that memory from him. Daiya thinks that happiness is to share memories with people, not just that, but to also spend all of your time with the people you love. Ignoring her, Josuke picks up the piece and tries to destroy it, but Daiya tells him it's no use. If the object breaks, the memory itself will disappear along with it. If he wants a way to beat California Kingbeard, she gives him one way to get his memory back. Simply, if she steps on the person's shadow that she's stolen a memory from, then it will return. Somewhat understanding what he's up against now, Josuke realizes that in his state, her stand is extremely dangerous. Meanwhile, Yasuho returns home and witnesses her mother, Suzuyo Hirose, sleeping on the floor after a night of heavy drinking. Moving into the lounge, Yasuho spots a hickey on her chest and starts to tear up. Crying now over how stupid her mum is, Yasuho gaps it, wanting to leave the house. However, she stops, still not knowing where she would go. Spotting a letter of hers by the door, Yasuho tears it open, eager to see the DNA results that are stored inside. Again though, she's confused when the test reveals that both subjects are the same person with a 95.8% accuracy. Looking at a picture of Kira's corpse on her cell phone, Yasuho notices the strange mark on his wrist, and upon seeing it, it also reminds her of how she saw the same mark at the Higashikata house when she was a child. It was something she saw all of the time when she was playing around with Joshu. She's not sure what the symbol means, but what sparks her curiosity is why a dead man has the same symbol as one inside of the Higashikata household. Over with Josuke, Daiya asks him to accompany her to her bedroom as she wants to change clothes in order to go shopping. While she is in the closet, Josuke uses the opportunity to have Soft and Wet remove the sound from the closet's light switch when he flips it off. His thinking behind this is that the light of the bedroom would create an even larger shadow in the closet that Daiya would end up stepping on. However, the moment he flicks off the switch, she freezes, feeling like something's up. She accuses him of moving, even deducing his entire plot of using the bedroom light to extend his shadow. Stunned, Bro stands there sweating, physically unable to understand what the hell is up with this girl. Activating his bubble ability, Josuke tries to cut his losses by switching the light back on, but as soon as he moves, Daiya picks up on it and demands he take a step back. Sweating, Josuke understands that if he messes this up, he's screwed and he'll be beaten. Instead of having his memories returned, it'll be the opposite and he'll lose more and more as this goes on. Remembering Yasuho, the only person he can actually trust in helping him figure out who he used to be, he figures that he needs her help in order to defeat this Daiya girl's stand. Spotting their cell phone across the room and remembering Yasuho's contact number, Josuke decides to make a dash for the phone. Picking it up, he's able to type in her cell phone number, but the moment he calls her, another of his memories are extracted. This time, it's the memory containing his relationship with Yasuho, meaning he no longer remembers her at all. The chess piece then squeezes itself out of Josuke's mouth before shooting around the room, allowing Daiya to pick it up. At the same time, Yasuho receives the call, but since she doesn't recognize the number, she pays it no attention. Back at the Norisuke residence, Josuke demands to know who the girl appearing in the chess piece is, but she refuses to tell him. Sweating balls and with a nagging feeling of needing to contact someone, Josuke can't remember who it was. Daiya herself uses this opportunity to manipulate him some more. With Yasuho's memories extracted, she decides to use the fact that she is technically the first girl Josuke's met in an attempt to seduce him. She and Josuke lie in the bed together, and Daiya asks Josuke to even propose to her. At the same time, Norisuke strolls inside, a little surprised to see no one around. Hearing something though, he takes a peek down the hallway and stumbles upon Josuke, pinning Daiya down. Immediately, he flies into a rage, adamant that he's going to kill him, but stops upon seeing how well Josuke is doing. Can't believe I'm saying this right now, but anyway. Happy with Josuke working up a storm, he turns back, still with the plan to eventually kill Josuke. For the time being though, he plans to use Daiya to turn Josuke into a slave in both mind and body, a memoryless dope who does exactly what he's told. Inside of the bedroom, Josuke almost falls for Daiya, who starts removing her clothes and telling him she thought he was cute. Luckily, the bubble that he created earlier, like the second time when he went to flick the light switch, floats up and pops when it makes contact with the ceiling. The popping sound, which mimicked the click of the light switch, prompted Daiya to abandon her seduction and check where the sound came from. She accuses him of doing it, but he obviously denies it since he was with her the entire time. Realizing that his own bubble floated off somewhere earlier, Josuke knows that he came extremely close to defeat, but was saved by complete coincidence. Discovering nothing after looking around the room, Daiya decides to go shopping, telling Josuke to wait outside the room while she changes. Inside of the closet, Daiya still can't figure out what happened, but knows she needs to keep an eye out for Josuke's ability. If she gains one more memory though, she knows she'll be able to defeat him. Outside of the compound, Yasuho arrives and sneaks up along the wall to dodge any of the security cameras that might see her. Wary of being threatened by the maid earlier, Yasuho pushes that to the back of her mind. It's important to her that she sees Josuke. She wants to help him somehow. In her eyes, there should never be someone who doesn't understand the circumstances of their own birth. Suddenly, Daiya arrives right in front of her on her bicycle and calls out for Josuke to open the gate. Seeing him walking up, Yasuho gives him a friendly wave, but only receives a confused look as a reply. Standing there, unable to say anything out of pure embarrassment, Yasuho sprints off and hides just around the corner. She doesn't know what happened, but can tell it's something extremely bad. Meanwhile, Daiya tells Josuke to hop on the back of her bike. Getting on, Josuke notices an overhanging branch and quickly comes up with a plan. Activating his bubble ability to remove his own voice, Josuke grabs the branch, lifting him up off the bike. When the bubble pops, it then fakes his own voice as still being behind Daiya, giving her motivation to bike forward. However, she notices that Josuke isn't hugging her and questions if his arms are being used for something else. Again, another memory is then torn from Josuke's brain. This time, the memory of how to use anything related to his stand Soft and Wet. Seeing him fall to the ground, she picks up the chess piece, happy to have seemingly defeated him. Leaning up against the tree himself, Josuke starts to breathe heavily and begins feeling weak, as if his strength was sapped right out of him. Randomly, then getting the duo's attention, they hear a ringing noise coming from somewhere inside of the house. Daiya picks up on the dial tone as her phone, but can tell that it's not coming from her room. Speaking up, Josuke reveals that it was him. He took the phone and hid it in the refrigerator before they left. Fairness is rules after all, and he's not about to start lying to her now. Why did he do it though? He asks her if she has any idea. He also gets the weird feeling he was meant to be calling an important person earlier, but can't exactly remember who it was. Actually stunned with his honesty, Daiya rages out and biffs the piece with soft and wet in it at the floor, cracking it and in turn inflicting some form of internal damage to Josuke. Demanding that he grab her phone for her, the duo return indoors and make their way to the kitchen where it's ringing. Daiya thinks to herself that if the person calling is Yasuho, it doesn't even matter if he remembers her at this point. It's not about losing memories. If it was her, then she vows to destroy all of the memories that she's stolen, ensuring they completely disappear. Flinging the fridge door open and seeing her phone ringing away, she pulls out his memories of Yasuho, cracks them, inflicting even more damage before demanding he grabs the phone and close the door. Grabbing it off him and answering the phone, Daiya hears Yasuho call out from the other side, asking if Josuke was there. Sick to her core that he got Yasuho involved in things he shouldn't have, Daiya reels up as she goes to smash Josuke's memories to bits. Not realizing what she's done though, Josuke speaks up, telling her she's just walked straight into his shadow. Immediately, all of the memories smash out of the chess pieces and return to Josuke, helping him to remember exactly what he was trying to do. Turns out, bro had actually thought up this plan in case all of his memories, or specific ones like her stand, were taken. He thought he could try placing her phone inside of the fridge as bait for his final trap. He knew that if he could leave the fridge open and not close it, the light inside would illuminate out, and if he stored the sound of closing the door inside of a bubble, later when it burst, she would just assume he'd have closed the door, setting up his final trap. Since she'd actually taken a stand, he'd totally forgotten all about a soap bubble because she made him forget. Now, since she stepped on his shadow by herself, Josuke claims he indeed beat her, but still has one important question he needs to ask her. That being, did she attack him on her father's orders? Hearing her deny this, Josuke immediately believes her before returning to the call with Yasuho. He thanks her for calling and lets her know he'll call back sometime later. Walking into the hallway, Josuke heads for the mystery symbol on the second floor, adamant that he needs to investigate it. Standing nearby, Daiya fears that Josuke won't love her anymore, but he tells her to just chill. Currently, he freaking hates her, but since she doesn't lie, he figures out a way to reconcile with her. On top of that, he scores her cell phone and insists that she don't tell her father anything about him going to the second floor. Cementing the deal, he gives her a peck on the cheek before heading up towards Mr. Norisuke's study. Just before they enter, Daiya explains how the square mark he's been trying to figure out is probably the mark of a bookseller. Right after this, Josuke and her break into the upper room, which is an office donned with a surrounding library. Taking a gander at the surrounding library and the books that it holds, Josuke spots the same mark that was outside on a book and takes it off the shelf. That book is named The Steel Ball Run Race Complete Record, written by Norisuke Higashikata I. So that there brings us to the end of what I consider the introduction arc of Jojolion. It's kind of like the two first arcs, like canonically the two first arcs put together. The Soft and Wet arc and the California King Bed arc. It's great to be back in Morioh. Part 4 was honestly one of my favourite parts when I watched the anime for the first time, so it'll be interesting to see what Araki does to this small coastal town this time. Figuring out who Josuke truly is, I imagine, will be like the first section of the story, then perhaps it might go into explaining what these walleyes even are. Of course, if you are new around here and want to keep up to date with a bunch of different series, then make sure to subscribe, and if you did enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like as well. Finally, check out the Patreon if you'd like to get early access to videos before they go live here on YouTube. But for now, it's been your professional degenerate Diavolo, and I'll see you all in a bit. Bye.